Hello and welcome to myfinanceteacher.org. In this video I want to have a look at energy, and we're starting with a chart of crude oil. Oil has been declining into what I've mentioned a few weeks ago would be an intermediate cycle low. So far oil has been 161 days into the ongoing intermediate cycle. And looking back at history, it seems that the crude oil cycles last for a little bit over half a year, so a little bit over 180 days or so, would tell me that crude oil will probably continue to decline for just another couple of weeks, perhaps another several weeks, to create a little bit of a lower low for the end of the ongoing intermediate cycle. So I think there is a chance for crude oil to poke again below the Bollinger Bands and perhaps come close to one of the support zones. The nearest support zone below the price right now is around in low 50s based on the early 2021 highs as well as the highs in early 2020, in February 2020. Looking at the 14-day RSI, we see that the lowest the 14-day RSI has dropped to during this recent decline was 39 over here on the 23rd of March. And I think there is a potential for RSI to come closer to the oversold area, perhaps even dip into oversold area. Because compared to the previous intermediate cycle low, which was, well, relatively mild, as you see during the previous intermediate cycle decline, crude oil only dropped from the highs of around $44 down to the low of around $34. Actually, it's not that mild. That's a drop of around $22, $23. So that is a considerable drop. And during this drop, we did see RSI dip into overbought area, which happened before the actual low on crude price took place back in early November last year. And as RSI dropped earlier than the price itself into the low, this correction in crude oil price gave us a bit of a positive divergence between October and November, and such positive divergence often indicates an upcoming rally, which it did in that case. So perhaps one of the things you might be looking out for in crude oil over the next few weeks is a positive divergence between the crude oil prices and 14-day RSI. Next, let's have a look at how the general stock market might affect crude oil. This is S&P 500, and I might make another video dedicated to the general stock market, but what I see here is that S&P 500 is getting a little bit overbought over here. It's poked a few times over the Bollinger Bands, and we see the 14-day RSI starting to enter into that overbought area. Plus, the cycle is already 36 days long. Usually these cycles last for a couple of months, so perhaps in the next few weeks the general stock market will correct a little bit, and that might help crude oil to drop down into that eventual intermediate cycle low. Next, looking at the energy companies, as we have been expecting a bit of a correction in energy over the last few weeks, the members at myfinanceteacher.org, those who followed us, have been fortunate to enjoy this rally in energies, as we had a nice position in XLE, and somewhere around here near the end of that rally above this resistance at around $48, we decreased our XLE position substantially, and over here near the second half of March I did re-enter into XLE with minute tiny positions just in case if energy shoots up from here. But again, those positions are really small, and we are expecting energy to correct a little bit, giving us a very nice buying opportunity perhaps over the next few weeks. And if you want more details on what exactly we are doing in our energy trade as well as other trades, you are welcome to join us at myfinanceteacher.org. Here we discuss the general stock markets, energy, cryptocurrencies, precious metals, and a range of commodities such as copper, coffee, corn, wheat, and so on. And one thing we always try to remember at myfinanceteacher.org is that you want to buy when blood is, so to speak, flowing on the streets. When the markets are pessimistic about an asset, that is when a nice buying opportunity takes place. When everybody is really excited about something, that's not usually a perfect time to buy. So for that reason, I do like to look at the Optimism index on a range of assets. This one is the optimism index for crude oil. Whenever the index reaches this red line, that's when everybody is already excited about the markets. And again, that's probably when the markets are a little bit overheated. A nice buying opportunity comes when this optimism index is down near the green line at the previous intermediate cycle low, which was not very severe as opposed to the recent history in crude oil. We see this optimism index dropping down to around 35. At the moment, optimism index is at about 54 and it recently dropped only down to 49. In many of the previous intermediate cycles, this optimism index drops all the way down to this green line or even lower, or at least down to this mid-30s, as in the previous intermediate cycle low, before the cycle actually finishes. And that's another reason why I'm still expecting crude oil and generally energy prices to cool down a little bit and bring this optimism on energy a little bit lower. I want to buy when traders get a little bit less excited about their gains in energy. Next, moving on to natural gas. Again, as I mentioned in my previous video, the members at myfinancesteacher.org have enjoyed a short-term bounce over here in natural gas from the bottom of the Bollinger Bands up to the middle of this red line, this 20-day moving average. That's around where we exited from this trade, and we did expect that trade to be a very short-term trade, because I think natural gas is still dropping into the intermediate cycle low. Based on history, I think cycles in natural gas last for nearly half a year. Looks to me that the average duration is about 135 days over the last several years. Currently, this ongoing cycle is on day 105. I don't think this recent low on the 4th of April was the end of the cycle. I think there is a good chance for natural gas to give us another low before a new cycle can start. And if that happens, perhaps over the next several weeks, that will bring the ongoing cycle relatively close to its average duration. We also see that the Bollinger Bands are narrowing. Usually narrow Bollinger Bands forecast some sort of a violent move. Is that going to be a move to the upside or to the downside? Well, perhaps we will see a bit of a symmetrical triangle on natural gas. Symmetrical triangles are usually a continuation pattern, and as natural gas has been dropping all the way since mid-February, then as Bollinger Bands narrow, perhaps that violent move will first bring prices lower, giving you this buying opportunity into the new intermediate cycle. Additionally, talking about seasonality on natural gas, I don't think natural gas consumption right now in spring is that high. Generally, consumption increases in summer. That's when a lot of southern states in the US start using more air conditioning power, and as natural gas is used quite a lot in electricity generation, that's when natural gas demand will perhaps give us a new cycle high all the way into summer. But before that, I think we'll still have another buying opportunity, perhaps over the next couple of weeks or over the next several weeks. And looking at the optimism index in natural gas, again, we see that usually cycle lows on natural gas take place when this optimism index is pretty close to this green line, at least close to around the level of 30. The previous intermediate cycle low took place when this optimism index was relatively high. It was in high 30s. And at the recent local low, rather than intermediate cycle low, that's when we took advantage of this short-term buying opportunity in natural gas. Again, this optimism index came down to high 30s. And as it's been dropping over the last few days, I think there is a good chance for the optimism index to cool off a little bit on natural gas, perhaps to come closer to this level of 30, and that again might be your nice buying opportunity into summer air conditioning season. So that is a quick review of energy markets. For more details on a range of assets and nearly daily updates, as you see from this scroll, join us at myfinancesteacher.org. And even before you do that, remember to hit the like button under this video and share your opinion on crude oil prices in the comments below. Specifically, do you see crude oil prices coming a bit lower down into that low 50s? So let me know what you think. In the meantime, have a nice day and good luck in your trades.